Just a remarkable human being. We've had him on our show, Cowboy Logic Radio, at one point, with a friend of ours who lives in town who also fought in the British Royal Army. And so the two of them got on and they were talking war talk and everything else, and then Admiral Ace Lyons says to him, "Well, Barry, when you get a chance, come on up and we'll have a hot toddy." It's just great. Admiral Ace Lyons served in the U.S. Navy for 36 years as a surface warfare officer, including Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, the largest single military command in the world. His initiatives contributed directly to the economic stability and humanitarian understanding of the Pacific and Indian Ocean regions and brought the U.S. Navy fleet back to China. He also served as U.S. military representative, senior military representative to the United Nations. As Deputy Chief of Naval Operations from 83 to 85, he was principal advisor on all Joint Chiefs of Staff matters and was the father of the Navy Red Cell, an anti-terrorism group comprised of Navy SEALs he established in response to the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut. This is almost as long as Claire Lopez's resume, you know that? I'm not done yet, Admiral. Admiral Lyons was also commander of the U.S. Second Fleet and commander of the NATO Striking Fleet, where the principal fleets for implementing the maritime strategy. Lyons also represented U.S. interests with military and civilian leadership worldwide, including China, Japan, and other Pacific Rim countries, the European continent, and Russia. As fleet commander, he managed a budget of over $5 billion and controlled a force of 250 personnel. Wow. He's a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. He received postgraduate degrees from the U.S. Naval War College and the U.S. National Defense University. Admiral Lyons, currently the Chief Executive Officer of Lyon Associates, a premier global consultancy providing technical expertise in the areas of international marketing and trade, enterprise risk, including anti-terrorism, site and port security, foreign policy, and security affairs. And it is with a great honor that we all welcome Admiral Ace Lyons.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be back with such a great group of Americans. I got to share with you an experience I had on the plane the other day. It was packed, took off an hour late as usual. We finally leveled off, and all of a sudden, the guy sitting next to the window yells out, "Admiral, United States Navy, retired, married, 2 sons, surgeons." And before I could say anything, the guy in the aisle seat yells out, "Admiral, United States Coast Guard, retired, married, 2 sons, both judges." I said, what's going on here? And then the guy in the middle seat yells out, "Gunny Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, retired, never married, 2 sons, both admirals." Anything's possible in today's world. How many veterans we got here today? All the veterans, stand up. Give them a nice hand for their years of service. Well, I got to say, this group, more than any other group, knew on 8 November 2016, we had a political revolution in America when you helped elect Donald J. Trump as the 45th President of the United States. I got to tell you, that election was for more than the presidency. That election was for the soul of America and for the rights and freedoms we enjoy in our Constitution. But make no mistake, our Constitution is under attack every day, not only by the Muslim Brotherhood, but the deep state, which includes the mainstream media and our former president. And I got to tell you, I don't understand why on day one, all the Obama holdovers weren't given a pink slip. And on day two, why we didn't start purging the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, with regard to the Muslim Brotherhood, there's no question they should be designated a terrorist organization. You know, it was Phil Haney, formerly of Department of Homeland Security, that came up with 13 different reasons why they should be so designated. But as I wanted to tell the president, Mr. President, you only need one, and it's their creed, which is to destroy America from within by our own miserable hands and replace our Constitution with that draconian 7th century Sharia law. Well, let me tell you, it ain't gonna happen. Now, you know, as we've seen, I'll think of it in a minute. We've had many things to do with the Muslim Brotherhood. You know, I reject the term radical Islam because it implies there is some other form of Islam. Well, there isn't. And it was Erdogan of Turkey, when he was prime minister, who said it best. Islam is Islam. Democracy is the train we ride to achieve our ultimate objective, which is to make Islam the dominant religion throughout the world. And you have to understand, Islam is a totalitarian ideology bent on world domination, masquerading as a religion. And until you understand that, you will not be successful in defeating this threat. Now, we can't overlook the deep state and what it has done. And I got to tell you, each day I wake up and I thank God Hillary Rodham Clinton is not our president. Now, we're all waiting to see Chairman Nunes's release of his 4 pages that will, I believe, be sending people to jail and will bring to an end the Mueller Conspiracy Act. I think it will include, and I can share this with you, back in 2015, all 6 U.S. intelligence agencies, including the FBI, formed a secret task force to take down then candidate Trump. And they used a UK, a British spy element that was housed at NSA at Fort George Meade in Maryland. And why that outfit? Because they couldn't get FISA warrants to spy on Trump's organization. But the Brits were under no such constraints. And so they used them, and which is really unlawful, because much of that information is what Mueller is using today. Now, one other thing which I can share with you at this point. You all remember the Russian female lawyer that had the meeting in Trump Tower. Well, she was precluded. She was such a national security threat. She was precluded from coming to the United States. But through Loretta Lynch and her other connections at the Secretary of State, they got her a visa to come to New York for the specific purpose to set up this meeting at Trump Tower, where they then could charge the Trump organization with collusion with the Russians. I mean, this is KGB tactics. This makes absolutely no sense, and it all must be exposed. Now, let me share with you uranium-1. And there's only, don't have the time to go into all of it, but remember a couple of things. Rosatom, which was the Russian nuclear energy corporation czar, set up an American subsidiary in Bethesda, Maryland. And they sent over their agent, a guy by the name of Mike, in 2005. And he, an enterprising guy, immediately set up his RICO organization, money laundering, fraud, you name it, he did it. So by 2010, as a result of an FBI walk-in informant, the FBI had all the information they needed to indict this guy, Mikan, which would have killed the uranium-1 deal. Now, that wasn't going to be allowed to happen. In fact, what they did, they kept the investigation open for another 4 years. Why? Well, after all, the Clinton Foundation had to get their $145 million donation from the board of directors from Uranium-1, those great humanitarians. So you can see, if they had indicted, it would have killed the Uranium-1 deal. Then you got the dossier. The dossier. My God. You know, this is Gambino crime family stuff. I know Al Capone has got to be rolling over his grave and saying, "Where were you guys in the FBI when I needed you?" Well, you know, there was only one collusion with Russia, and that was the Clinton campaign, the Democratic National Committee, the Fusion GPS, and the FBI. And I got to tell you, the FBI paid Steele over $100,000. And that's in addition to the $10 million that the Clinton campaign paid the Fusion GPS. All right, so from there, this all has to be exposed. The same way with the Hillary emails and everybody associated with her, because they violated the Espionage Act. They must be held accountable, and that includes our former president. Now, from there we go to Benghazi. And then we have Fast and Furious. And then we got the IRS scandal. It all must be exposed if we're to make America great again. And that includes exposing the fraud that we had occupying 8 years of the White House. That means his real birth certificate. That means his phony Social Security number from Connecticut from a dead man. It all has to come out. It's part of making America great again. Now, I just remembered I forgot to tell you about the Muslim Brotherhood. So I want to share that with you. You know, I mentioned their creed, and this is what President Obama embraced. He not only embraced this group, but he put out a secret national, a presidential study directive number 11. And actually, it sanctioned the Muslim Brotherhood and their civilized jihad. That presidential study directive is still in effect today and must be canceled. It needs to be declassified so every American understands what that president did and how he embraced the Muslim Brotherhood who are out to destroy our Constitution. Now, you know, when you want to take a country down, the first thing you do is weaken the military. And that's what sequestration was all about. I mean, here we were being threatened all over the world. So why would you cut almost $1 trillion out of the defense budget so that you wind up with the smallest army since World War II, the smallest Navy since, not World War II, World War I, the smallest Air Force in its history, and the same for the Marine Corps. Not only that, our readiness is down probably somewhere around 50%. The military is in a world of hate, of hurt, and it's going to take over a decade to get back where we need to be. And this is all contingent on whether we can get an appropriations bill signed. And that's what this is all about, what's going on in Congress. That's good old Chucky Schumer. He doesn't give a damn about the DACA. He is screwing the United States military and preventing us from getting that authorization bill we need to start the new programs and rebuild the United States military. Now, you know, compounding the budget problems was the social engineering that was imposed on our military by President Obama. It did nothing to improve our readiness or capabilities. It destroyed unit integrity, cohesiveness, and the will to win. Nothing that they did helped our military. In fact, he put out an executive order, 13353. And what it said was, diversity is a strategic imperative for mission accomplishment and readiness. What nonsense, to clean it up. I mean, this is faculty lounge logic. We are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on our ships, equipment. We used to be, we wanted the best and brightest, and that's what we deserve. Now, you know, there's three things I never let aboard a ship. One was a thief. Two was a drug user or drug pusher. And three was a homosexual. In fact, I reject the entire LGBT agenda. We've got to restore the moral underpinnings of the United States military. You know, when the president makes a statement, transgenders will not be allowed in the military, I don't need a 6-month study to figure out what that means. And I regret to say Mathis is part of the problem. Now, let me see, where was I there? I'll think of it, don't worry about it. When I go off script is when I get screwed up. Let's see, oh yes. Now, I gotta tell you, you know, when we had, I got it. Nobody has a right to serve in the military. It is the commander-in-chief that sets the standards. And if you can't meet those standards, you must be rejected because it affects the single military mission of the United States military, which is defend and protect this great country. If you can't meet the standards, you're out. And with this transgender nonsense, I got to tell you, Dr. Phil McHugh, who was the lead psychologist at Johns Hopkins University, and who is an expert on transgenderism, said, transgenderism is not a civil rights issue. It is a mental disorder that needs treatment and understanding. And it should never be forced on the United States military. Transgender people are mentally unstable, and we don't need them in the military. Now, let me quickly touch on a few other things. I want to touch on our border, Iran and North Korea. There's no question we should build the wall. It's not only to protect from illegal immigration, but it's the drug trade. Years ago, the Soviet Union, this goes far back, they did a study. And they figured the way to break down the American society and military was through flooding the United States with drugs. And they are joined by China, Iran, and North Korea. They infiltrated the drug cartels. Now, our former president actually sanctioned. We have Hezbollah. He sanctioned Hezbollah, who have that's the Iranian terrorist organization, who have over $1 billion drug program going in the United States today. In fact, the DEA was going to close them up and shut everything down and was prevented from doing so by our former illustrious president. This was criminal, and he should be totally held accountable and prosecuted for this thing. In fact, they've just reopened. It's called Project Cassandra, and they've just reopened it again. But they've lost 2-3 years of all of those contacts and everything else. Very difficult. But the point is, We have been infiltrated. This is for them, for Russia, for China. This is their political warfare, and you've got to look at this from their standpoint, and we've got to come at it from our standpoint. Yeah, recognize it. It is political warfare, and we can no longer tolerate it. Now, what else have we got here? Certainly from Latin America. You know, as you sit here today, we have Freudian slip. We have Russian strategic backfire bombers operating from airfields in Venezuela today. They're not only operating from Venezuela airfields, they're operating from Nicaraguan airfields. I've never heard of anybody or any of us intercepting those strategic bombers. In fact, Ambassador Noriega, some years ago, told me Hezbollah, excuse me, actually has a missile site in Venezuela. I haven't seen pictures of it, but I take his word for it. All of this must be stopped. All of it cannot continue. I mean, we're wide open through our southern hemisphere. What's gone on? And it's China and Russia that control the Panama Canal today. Thank you, Jimmy Carter. I mean, that was one of the dumbest things he did, turning over that strategic, important waterway. And let me touch on Iran. We have an uprising in Iran. There's no question we should be supporting that uprising because those protesters have shown they have the courage to take on the Iranian theocracy and want to remove it, which should be one of our key, core, vital national security interests. Excuse me. And the way you start showing your support is you cancel that stupid nuclear agreement that Obama put into effect. And you reimpose the sanctions. That'll be the definite signal to the protesters, we're with them. We also need to revise the Voice of America and the Farsi and the English and the Arabic broadcast to bring it in line with the president's agenda. You got to get rid of the Obama holdovers. Yeah. Taking out for a water break. Yeah. Now, the other things we should be doing in Iran, there's no question we should have support. Excuse me, should have been gin. No question we should have supported a sovereign Kurdistan. That's the one thing that will interrupt the Iranian bridge to the Mediterranean Sea. We also should be rearming the Kurds. And let me tell you, we should support the independence movement in Baluchistan. This will screw up the Chinese efforts in Pakistan in their Silk Road new ventures. Now, with regard to North Korea, you may think, I can tell you this, regretfully, nothing's going to come out of these talks. It makes absolutely no sense. You need to remember, there'd be no North Korea nuclear problem if it wasn't for China. China's the one that provided the wherewithal for North Korea to have a nuclear program. And also remember, North Korea is the off-site laboratory for Iran. So everything North Korea has, you've got to assume Iran has. Now, President Trump's gut instincts were exactly on the mark. He wanted to take on China, impose sanctions, and that's what he should have done, instead of being talked out of that by the Obama holdovers and go hat in hand to China to ask us, please help us out with this North Korean nuclear problem. Makes absolutely no sense. And what we need to demand from China is they withdraw the 16-wheel TELs. Those are the tractors, erector launchers, that give the mobility to the North Korean ICBMs. In other words, if they didn't have that, we'd have 2 hours to take out those missiles before they could ever be launched. But because of these TELs, it gives them the road mobility where they can hide them, and it makes it very difficult for us to take them out. Now, there's one other thing I would do, and that is I would withdraw all U.S. military dependents from South Korea. They are a hostage force there today. And that will upset the military thinking not only in North Korea but China. It gives substance to the threat of us using offensive action. And it provides us much more flexibility in what we can take out if we decide to take offensive action. Now, there's one other thing I forgot to mention about the Muslim Brotherhood before I leave you. And that is, they're the ones that purged all of our training manuals. They took out anything to do linking Islam with terrorism. This denied our military people of the valuable insight on the enemy they're facing. And it's the same for law enforcement down to the local levels. They have been denied this information. These training manuals must be rewritten as soon as possible. It hasn't been done, and that's along with canceling all the executive orders that President Obama put out, which was a disadvantage to our military forces, particularly the one on diversity, which was nothing but a cover for implementing the social engineering mandate. Let me say it's been great to be with you. God bless you, and God bless America. Absolutely.
Who needs coffee in the morning after Admiral Lyons gets up on stage to talk with you?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you just witnessed the greatest of the greatest generation. Admiral Ace Lyons. What an honor. We've had him on our radio show, but what a great honor it is to meet him. It's just such a wonderful get-together. You got the greatest people here, I'm telling you, these next 2 days that are left. It's just the best gathering of American patriots you're going to find. I should say I'm Donna Fiducia, and...
They know. They know who I am.
Mr. Fiducia.
They knew, yes, yeah, Mr. Fiducia.
The bus man.